Welcome back muli mga kaibigan sa bagong muling mga balita na ating mapapakinggan at mapapanood dito sa channel ng Bayan, ang Bayang Pinas. Dito, ating matutunghayan ang mga bagay na nangyayari sa ating bansa, partikular na umano sa loob na mismo ng gobyerno at lalong-lalo na dito sa kasalukuyang administrasyon. Ngunit bago ang lahat, kung bago ka pa lamang sa ating channel ay siguraduhin mong ikaw ay mag-subscribe, pindutin ang notification bell at syempre piliin na rin ang all upang lagi kang maging updated sa mga balitang bago, totoo at walang bias. Syempre mga kaibigan at kung mga ating mga solid viewers naman dyan ay maraming salamat naman po sa inyong walang sawang pagsuporta. At huwag din pong kalimutang magpakita ng suporta sa ating channel sa pamamagitan ng pag-like at pag-share sa ating mga videos. At syempre mga kaibigan, kung meron ka naman pong hinaing at opinyon, ang ating comment section ay bukas para sa inyong mga opinyon at mga hinaing at kung ano po ang nais nyong sabihin sa ating mga gobyerno upang mabasa na nito. Heto na nga mga kaibigan, atin nang panoorin at pakinggan ang balitang ito.
Sa Liwasang Bonifacio sa Maynila. Sa mga Freedom Park at Sports Complex naman gaganapin ang rally sa ibang rehiyon.
Yung final location and oras po, this will be a simultaneous nationwide peace rally.
Pwede naman na itong ituloy sa...
Etong si Jean Pajardo, ano ho ito eh? Isa ho ito sa mga talagang umawalang ya, nagwalang ya sa KOJC noong kinubkub ho nila yung KOJC compound. Isa ho yan sa pinakawalang yang naging leader ng PNP. Sa bagay, no? Pagka nga namang natapalan ng kung ano-ano yung mga mata nyo, tenga nyo, kahit mali, kahit nabaluktot, talagang tutuwirin nyo. Yan hong ginawa nila doon sa KOJC compound. Napakarami hong karapatang nalabag doon sa lugar na yon. Sa pangunguna ho yan, netong si Romel Marbil, ang amo niyan, at ang itong tagapagsalita nilang walang hiya na si Jean Pajardo. Tuloy.
Rally po ng INC, and the PNP is ready to provide the necessary police assistance po doon po sa gagawin po nilang
Parang ano yun, nag-post ka doon parang napapalunok ka na rin ba, madam? Nag-o-overtime ka na rin ba ngayon, madam? Ito mukhang ang lalim ng eye bags mo, madam. Parang nag-o-overtime ho ata kayo.
lawakang aktibidad po. So tuloy-tuloy na po ito.
Ayun na nga mga kababayan, tuloy-tuloy na daw ho ang paghahanda ng PNP dyan sa gaganapin na nationwide peace rally ng mga kababayan natin dyan sa INC. Tanungin nga ho natin yung isang kasama natin kung dadalo siya dyan. Kung dadalo siya dyan, sasamaan ho natin yung ating isang kasama na membro ng INC at talagang magtatandem na lang ho kami. Oy, dadalo ka ba ha? Dadalo ka ba? Meron ho tayong kasamang membro ng INC. Tingnan ho natin, kausapin ho natin siya kung dadalo siya. Kung sakaling dadalo siya, natural, sasama na ho tayo sa kanya. Number 55 sa Balota, Atty. Vic Rodriguez, Congressman Rodante Marcoleta. Paikot-ikot lang ho yan para matatak sa kaisipan ng ating mga kababayan, ng ating mga kandidato sa 2025 midterm election. Eto ho! Tuloy ho natin, pakinggan ho natin ang mga punto de vista nitong si Atty. Salvador Panelo kaugnay dyan sa pagkakatanggal bilang miyembro ng National Security Council nitong si Vice President Sara Duterte at itong si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Pakinggan ho natin itong mga kababayan. Meto na ho mga kababayan, umpisa na ho natin to kay Atty. Salvador Panelo. Okay?
Good morning, Attorney Sal.
Good morning, Karen.
And welcome back at the forefront.
Thank you.
So let's first start with Executive Order 81. Do you believe it's claimed that it is meant to reorganize and revamp the National Security Council?
It's pure and simple politics, dirty politics of that. Because if you look at the history of the National Security Council, for 75 years, the composition remained constant. The Vice President was there. And for 27 years, all living presidents were also members of the National Security Council. And then suddenly, this so-called reorganization executive order. So what's the reason for that? There is only one reason, politics. They want them out, the two Dutertes. It's all geared towards 2028. Now, the two other living presidents were included to deodorize para hindi halata. To make it appear na they're not targeting BP Sara as well as the former President Duterte.
And former President Arroyo, in the early parts of after President Bongbong Marcos won the elections, was demoted at some point from being deputy speaker to just, I think, from being a deputy majority.
Senior deputy
there to just deputy, and then
she was
later on
removed.
just ordinary congresswoman. Do you think that this also has something to do with former President Arroyo not being an ally of the administration?
Oh, definitely. We know for a fact that the former President Arroyo is close political ally of BP Sara.
Does she remain to be an ally
she
of
is.
Vice President Sara
Definitely,
up
she
to
is.
now?
Until now, yes.
But according to the records, the NSC met for the first time in February 2023 and has not met since then. So Vice President Sara Duterte, according to the records, did not attend that NSC meeting. So do you think
Was she invited? Or was she not?
as early as that time, was there already a rift that would cause the Vice President to not be invited in the National Security Council?
I don't know that particular month. What I know is that even the previous Vice President, despite the fact that they were not politically allied, she was invited and attended the July 2016 National Security Council with the presence of 4 living presidents: Arroyo, Estrada, Ramos, and there were 4 of them, and Aquino.
So it's really part of tradition to have former presidents be part of the National Security Council, regardless of the alliance between the shifting administration.
Not only tradition, it's part of the executive order created originally. That was the base for that was Commonwealth Act 330, and Quirino in 1952 created the National Security Council, and then in 1986, President Cory reestablished that National Security Council with the same composition: members of the cabinet, vice president, and other persons designated by her. And then it was incorporated in the Administrative Code of 1987. In 1992, the former President Arroyo reestablished it. And again, the Vice President was included, as well as the living president.
So in your opinion, as a lawyer, this Executive Order 81, is there any flaw from a constitutional standpoint to the way it was reorganized to remove former presidents as members of the council?
There is no dispute or quarrel about the president has the discretion, because that's
his
an
prerogative.
executive order. It is his right. The problem is, to my mind, it was ill-advised, because you need the insights of the vice president, you need the insights of the living presidents. They are well-equipped, they have experience, they know their subject. Eh, bakit mo tatanggalin? Yung sinasabi nila, I'm amused by the rationale of this one cabinet member saying that we're doing this because we want to
Revamp?
Revamp. No, they're revamping it because they want to put more strength in the composition. And they said, and he was saying that we've been reorganizing this. He's forgetting that, yes, that has been reorganized, but they never removed the vice president and the living presidents.
Well, it was Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin that also said that Vice President Sara is no longer relevant to the responsibilities of an NSC member.
Bakit naman?
Bakit naman?
Ba't niya... He didn't explain why. Why can't she not?
Ang problema ko kasi dito kay Lucas Bersamin, umakyat na rin ho sa utak niya ang pagiging executive secretary, ang pagiging lethal president niya, ika nga, no? Eh, baka nakalimutan ho nitong si Bersamin na pangalawa ho sa pinakamataas na opisyal ng ating bansa, itong si VP Sara. At anumang oras, kung anumang mangyari dito kay Bangag, dito kay Marcos Jr., si VP ang dapat na pumalit sa kanya. At kung hindi siya kasama sa National Security Council, at least kung kasama itong si VP Sara at naririnig niya kung anong napag-uusapan dyan, napagmimitingan dyan, aware ho siya sa mga kinaharap na problema o issue o yung mga bagay na hindi dapat na malaman ng mga ordinaryong Pilipino na pinag-uusapan dyan sa council na yan. Tinanggal ho itong si BP siguro dahil dahil daw ho doon sa doon sa sinabi niya na threat dito kay Marcos Jr. Mga kalokohan ho talaga nitong administrasyon na to. Oo.
Not be relevant. She is the second highest official of the land. At any time she succeeds to the presidency, she has to be there. She needs to be there.
So in the past, when you were Chief Presidential Legal Counsel, what did you see were some of the relevant roles of the NSC when it comes to national security?
You need people who have wisdom, experience relative to national security. And these people, members of the cabinet and other high-profile personalities that the president trusts to have such wisdom, are invited. Kailangan nila yun eh. They need it.
What about the threat that Vice President Sara made against President Bongbong Marcos, First Lady Lisa, and Speaker Martin Romualdez, the threat from the grave, meaning if something happened to her that she already talked to an assassin, do you consider that to be a threat to national security, which could be a consideration as to why she was removed from the council?
As you say, Karen, that it's a threat from the grave, so there was no threat. How can you make a threat inside the grave? That was never a threat. I have already explained that many times over. It was a conditional threat, if it could be called a threat. I think you should take it in context. The vice president knew that there was a threat in her life. And she believed that the only people that could do that to end her life would be her political enemies.
So considering that there is that rift where even the vice president would consider the president as her political enemy, you don't think that there's a reason for her removal in the National Security Council on that ground where there's no, basically there's this conflict between the two?
National security should always go beyond the personal differences of the members of the National Security Council, because you're talking about the security of your country. Whether I don't like you, you don't like me, we have to be together and plan to secure our country from forces external or internal that wants to overthrow or destroy our land.
And what about former President Duterte making calls to the military to withdraw their support? I think there were statements by former President Duterte before saying that they should withdraw their support, their military support to President Bongbong Marcos. Do you consider this to be a potential threat to national security, or would this fall under any offense under the revised penal code, like inciting to sedition?
For one, Karen, it is predicated on the wrong premise. He never asked the military to withdraw support. In fact, he was saying that I do not like coup. Ayaw ko yan. I don't want bloody. What he was asking the military is to be realistic, as well as they should know exactly their duty under the Constitution, which is very clearly provided that they are the protector of the people. So if that is your duty, you have to see whether your country is under threat even by its own government. And if that is so, then it is your duty to protect the people from this government created by the same people.
So there was no call for withdrawal of
Definitely
military
not.
support.
In fact, he was the one stopping the military from doing it.
And in your opinion, so you said that here, former President Estrada and former President Arroyo were just collateral damage to desensitize
Yes.
the removal
Yes,
of the
to get the
Dutertes.
rice.
To
The
deodorize.
purging of the two father and son tandem, father
So-
and daughter tandem.
Based on this reorganization, who do you think would be replacing those former presidents and the vice president in terms of the NSC membership? Because you suddenly have, what, like 4 people gone from the NSC.
Well, I saw the list. They have put in chairman even of committees in Congress, in the Senate, as well as in the House. Committee chairman. Nandun sila lahat eh. Yung mga anti-Duterte lahat. It's a good thing.
You mean members of Congress?
Yeah.
Is that usual, considering that this should be an executive council,
Oh,
meaning
kaya nga,
people from the
exactly.
executive?
But akin okay lang yun. Kasi security ang pinag-uusapan. If you're talking of security, yung mga pinagkakatiwala mo, those who you trust and those who have the wisdom to share with you on the security planning, kailangan sama mo yan. Pero this time talagang sinama nila lahat yung mga anti-Duterte forces doon.
And some are speculating
Si ano po, dapat itong si Franz Castro, isama na rin nila dyan sa National Security Council na yan. So tingnan natin ha, yung mga makakaliwang grupo, kagaya ni Franz Castro, yang si Raul Manuel, yung mga sila sa Ocampo, yan ang isama nila dyan sa National Security Council. Yari lamang tinanggal nyo yung mga individual na talagang nakikita ng ating mga kababayan na sila talaga ang merong malasakit dito sa bansa na to. Ilagay nyo na yung mga falsipikadong kagaya ni Franz Castro. Ganun lang.
that the reason why former President Duterte was also removed from the council was because President Bongbong Marcos was not invited to the inauguration of President Trump, whereas former President Duterte was invited to the inauguration of Trump. Would you know if former President Duterte was really invited to Trump's inauguration this January?
No, I don't think he was invited.
So it's nothing like a personal reason.
It's a petty reason.
Okay. And what's your take on calls to abolish the NTFL
Congress?
CAC? NTFL CAC. May calls ba to abolish Congress? So we'll talk about that as a separate question.
I'm calling for that.
Your call. Ikaw yung...
Revolutionary
Ikaw
government.
pala yun. Okay. But what about calls to abolish NTFL CAC? Do you think this has anything to do with also the removal of...
Number 58, Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, wag niyong kalimutan. Attorney Vic.
Vice President Sara?
By the way.
Well, this is based on reports that there are some calls to abolish NTFL CAC, and some are saying that this is related to this unholy alliance between the administration and the left groups, including the party list from the left.
The NTFL-CAC is very effective in dismantling the communist apparatus. So it should not
And
be
this was
abolished.
established during the time of President
Yes.
Duterte,
And it
right?
was continued by, and to his credit, he continued with the NTFL-CAC.
Yes. But do you think this has anything to do with potentially abolishing that NTFL CAC with this new composition of the NSC?
I don't think so. I think that would be another ill advice if he removes or abolish it.
So this reorganization, in your opinion, is really purely political or dirty politics, as you mentioned.
Oh, yes.
But do you think that this would affect the chances of the Duterte allies from being re-elected in the upcoming elections, or even at the local positions, that those who support former President Duterte or Vice President Sara would be affected in terms of their ability to be elected in the upcoming elections?
To my mind, it has nothing to do. Election of the
So the timing is not really...
election of members of Congress, senators, has definitely nothing to do with that. The election the outcome of the election will depend on the candidates' organization, their name recall, their face recall, and the money.
Even at the local
Yes,
level?
because I've been advocating for education of the electorate. Because right now, majority of the voters are not formally educated. That's why they are vulnerable to many factors. They can be bribed, they can be easily influenced, pwede silang maswindle, mabola. Kaya look at the kind of people we are electing. But if you are educated, you have a college degree, I don't think you'll be vote for this kind of people.
Well, based on recent surveys, two of former president's allies have a chance of getting seats in Senate,
Yes.
but they're not rating as highly formerly when President Duterte was still president, when he was endorsing, or even in the 2022 elections when he was finishing his term as president. I think we have here one of the surveys where we can see that Senator Bato de la Rosa is on the borderline, and Bongo is up there high. But do you think that the endorsing power of former President Duterte is waning given the current political landscape?
No, it's not, it doesn't, I don't think the endorsement has something to do with it. Maybe a little, but again, I will repeat, the factors would be money, your organization, and your name recall and face recall. You must remember that there are so many re-electionists and those who want to get back, to go back to the Senate. Eh, dati nang kilala ito. They have
Correct.
already organizations. Samantalang yung mga i-endorse ni Presidente, wala. Relatively unknown. They're only
Totoo ho yan mga kababayan, kaya talagang napakatindi ho ng midterm election. Kaya ngayon pa lang mga kababayan, pinapakita na ho natin dyan yung mga kandidato na itinaas ng kamay nitong si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, Congressman Rodante Marcoleta, nandyan na ho yan mga kababayan. Sino pa ba? Itong si Gov Chavi. Talaga hong ilinatag na ho natin lahat dyan. At tandaan nyo na lang ho yung numero para pagka nakaharap na kayo sa inyong mga balota, hindi nyo ho makalimutan yung number 10, itong si Attorney Jimmy Bondok.
two in the, what you may call an opposition, that has the capacity to win. Who? Chavit Singson.
Do you think Chavit Singson
He has the
has,
money, he has the name recall, he has the face recall, and he has the organization. If he uses his money, he will win. And then you have Pastor Apollo Kibuloy.
Yung,
He too has those
yun sa
assets,
52.
money, name recall, face recall, and organization. Ito, dalawang ito pwede yan, if they know how to.
and are they considered allies of the president, you think?
Oh, definitely. Of the former president.
Of former President Duterte, yes. And based on the political landscape right now, do you see that there are any other reorganizations that may happen in the government? So right now you have NSC, but do you think there are any other potential reorganizations based on your experience as Chief Presidential Legal Counsel?
Well, none that I know of. What is dangerous is we might have a reorganization of governments.
On what basis?
Well, we have the huge rally January 13. Many
That was
people-
called for by the
by
Iglesia ni
Cristo, which I'm supporting because the call is very sensible. Because the President, Marcos Jr., has called out to stop the impeachment because, if, according to him, and he is very correct, it will not benefit any Filipino. That's why the Iglesia ni Cristo is calling to support the President's call. And we support
Former
that.
President Duterte's call, or current President Marcos's
So
call.
all of us are supporting that because impeachment is such a divisive process that will only create schism among us. So tigilan nila yan.
So can you clarify, the call of INC to stop the impeachment is to support President Marcos's call
Yes.
not to have impeachment? Okay. So it's not former President Duterte's call to stop the impeachment.
No.
So it's really,
The rally is in support of Marcos' call to stop the impeachment. It effectively, of course, supports Vice Presidente Sara.
yes. But in your opinion, as a lawyer, do you think there's really time to even hear the impeachment case? There's rumors that there's going to be a fourth impeachment that will be filed soon. But is there enough time for Congress, one, to examine the impeachment complaints, and then for this to go to Senate?
Congress can always do what it wants to do. They have the power. They have the resources. But you know, even assuming that impeachment will not push through, the mere fact of filing such impeachment is already an effective black propaganda tool against the Vice President. Sinira mo na siya.
And do you think it's effective in this case? Kasi
Yeah.
Pinoy is also like underdogs, so
Yeah, but-
feeling nila inaapi, baka the sympathy would also
If
go to
you
the
will look
Vice
at the
President.
survey, tinatamaan siya. Both of them. Both of them.
Both the
Parehong
President and the
bumababa
Vice
eh.
President.
Talagang naapektuhan sila para-pareho.
But should this go to Senate, do you think Vice President Sara will finish the trial, or is resignation an option?
I don't think resignation is an option. The question would be, will she be convicted, assuming that tuloy-tuloy nila yan? Sinasabi nila, mahirap because of the senators. I'm always thinking of the Corona impeachment eh. Di ba you're part of that?
Yes, I was in the defense.
Yun mo. Impeachment wala namang basis yun. Pero suddenly na-convict
Yeah.
because of, according to one senator, they were given the wherewithal.
Well, if you look at the timing of all the events, the budget for 2025 was just passed recently, and it was controversial. I think there are some party-less groups that are still opposing the approval of the budget because of several questionable items. Do you think that some of the items there will be used for the 2025 elections and also for a potential impeachment to get the sufficient votes in Congress and in Senate?
Definitely. Yun lang akap eh. That's great for the election, di ba? How much? The members of Congress will receive 26 billion, and then the senators 6 billion. Malaking pera yun for election purposes.
So when you say that kanina, the factors that would affect the elections, yung money,
Oh, yes.
do you think manggagaling yan sa...
Yes, dun yung...
Okay, but Secretary Sal, what would you say is when you say that the removal of VP Sara and the other former presidents was ill-advised, so going back to the National Security Council, the former President Duterte and Vice President Sara have also been perceived as favoring China or allies of China. And Philippines, one of our perennial issues in the past years is really this territorial dispute with China. Do you think that was also a consideration in terms of this new composition of the National Security
Well,
Council?
if that was the perception of the present dispensation, that will be part of it. But it's not true that they're pro-China. The very reason why President Duterte befriended China was because he could not enforce the arbitral ruling. And nobody in this world has the might to enforce it. No country wants to enforce it. So sabi ni Presidente Duterte, since we cannot enforce this, kaibiganin na lang natin, because the West Philippine Sea is not the end all and be all of this problem, of our relationship. There are so many aspects of human endeavor that we can use, like trade relations with them, the sharing of intelligence, Ang daming po pwede, kaya doon siya nag-concentrate.
Okay. And in the past, with the former NSC, wala bang instances where